let's be clear about this. What you're describing is a cruel deception and a complete hoax, a deception and a betrayal of the Egyptian people. You have to keep in mind that Egypt now, under Mubarak and in the past 30 years, has become a semi-colonial country. 100 families own more than 90% of all property and wealth. An alliance between the senior military and this oligarchy to preserve the status quo, to deepen the privatization of the property and the wealth of the country, and to intensify the exploitation of its workers. Meanwhile, multiple platoons of warships have left the United States for Egypt. The Connecticut National Guard, the warship, the Kearsarge, is en route. Actually, an Israeli spy was caught blowing up a gas pipeline in the Sinai, clearly an attempt to provide a pretext, a provocation for the entry of not only U.S. troops but Israeli troops to put down the mass uprising. The total betrayal of the Arab national movement. The key point man for the torture apparatus, not only for the Egyptian people, but for everyone who has supported liberation and independence in the Arab world, kidnapped at will, sent by rendition to the torture chambers of Omar Salemi. This is not a transition to anything but the status quo. The U.S. it's not only, I mean, the New York Times and the established press have made it extremely clear. The multiple warships are on their way to Egypt, the role of the Israeli intelligence services, and the commitment not only to Omar Salemi, but the entire apparatus of the Egyptian general staff is to secure the old order, to put cosmetics on the corpse, to put Mubarak in the background without removing him, but the entire apparatus. This is a semi-colonial country under the Mubarak regime, under Israeli hegemony. It has absolutely nothing to do with Islamicism, this critique. This is a class evaluation of the actual structure of power in Egypt and across the Arab East. And the agenda is to dismantle the mass movement and to substitute for it this cabal of oligarchs with the old figures dressed up in new clothing. Let me make very clear to you.
Yes.
There is something known as the Crisis Group. It has been published all over the United States, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. The Crisis Group of senior advisors is guiding what is intended to be a transition towards stabilizing an oligarchy. Who is on the Crisis Group? Prince Turki Al-Faiso, Richard Armitage, the U.S. Deputy former Secretary of State, Shlomo Ben-Ami, the former Foreign Minister of Israel, Christopher Bertram, the director of the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, Zbigniew Brzezinski. The crisis group that is guiding this so-called transition represents the interests of Zionism, of imperialism, and of the permanent subjugation of the Egyptian people. Mubarak's dictatorship has brought forth a mass revolutionary response. Now they want to keep the substance without the form, and in order to do that, they will have to wage war against the Egyptian people who are mobilized and who will not retreat, because the mass hunger, with over 60% of the population, not 40%, living on less than $2 a day, the total inability of families to receive food, the fact that every family amongst the fellahin has a member of that family who's had to sell their kidneys for coin. That's the reality of Egypt, which is to be maintained under the old order, and it is a revolutionary response of the mass of the Egyptian people, which has thrown fear into the hearts of the cruel imperial rulers and their Zionist agents, subjugating Egypt and the region at large.
It's a real transitional. It's a real transitional status. It is not a continuation of President Mubarak period. President Mubarak sharply declared that he wouldn't run again for the next presidential election.
That the crisis group, which has been described in the mainstream newspapers in the United States, has specified who are the principal advisors to El-Baradei: Brzezinski, Armitage, and Shimon Peres. There's no ambiguity about this. Who are the puppets and who are pulling the strings? This is the same old, same old. It is the continued effort to preserve the subjugation of the Egyptian people, the The linchpin of Zionist and imperial hegemony is the Egyptian military alliance with Israel.
Right now, Mohammed Ghanem, he's the Muslim Brotherhood representative in the UK who joins us from London. We're going to switch gears. Mohammed Ghanem, thanks for joining us. I'm going to start with what your critics have said was a wrong move for you to enter, for your party that is, to enter into talks with the Mubarak regime, in particular Vice President Suleiman, and the different officials. What do you have to say to those critics?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Again and again and again, we never enter any dialogue with Mr. Omar Suleiman or Mr. Mubarak. The revolution has said it clearly. The main object and the first object to get Mubarak down, to depart him. We have the day of departure, but Mr. Mubarak is stubborn. Other section openly to give him the demand of the revolution. This is the right thing. But Mr. Mubarak is being stubborn, and actually today he shows some provocation. He's provoking the international opinion. He's provoking the revolution. And he thinks he's got the time and nobody can do anything.
And actually, we are all accepting their demands to have full and open democracy, full and open liberation of views and opinions, modification of our constitution, have the right for any candidate to go to the presidential race, no restriction again in the media.
Yes, I want to emphasize, as the Muslim Brotherhood knows all too well, in semi-colonial Egypt, the ability to participate in elections has to do with the role of the military and the role of money. Anatole France said famously that a rich man and a poor man have an equal right to sleep under a bridge. And in Egypt, a rich man and a poor man have nominally an equal right to take part in an election controlled by the military and the financial elite of the country. It's a charade, it's a facade. That's why al-Baradei answers to Shimon Peres, Armitage, and Brzezinski, not to the people of Egypt. This is not an alliance for democracy. This is an alliance for stabilizing the old order, and as I say, putting makeup on the corpse. The mass movement in Egypt represents 80 million people, and above all, the Egyptian working class. That working class which is facing starvation, that working class that is capable of waging the general strike which brought down the regime of the Shah. And the lessons of the Iranian Revolution will not be lost on the people of Egypt. The smashing of the old order requires the engagement of the mass movement in its own name, with its own program, freedom from imperial domination, control over the wealth and the economy of the country.
Again.
Yes, I would like to tell to your friend, the Egyptian one, because he said they respect the revolution. If he respects the revolution, he should respect their demand. First demand to get down the criminal, vicious, traitor dictatorship. And anyone who calls himself Egyptian today, which he has to cooperate with that criminal, he's not an Egyptian. That's it. This is the day to finalize. You're either an Egyptian, patriotic, or we dealing and helping and cooperating with the traitor dictatorship. It's a clear now.
Out of time, lots more to talk about. We had Mohammed Ghanem, Muslim Brotherhood representative in the UK. Also want to thank Majdi Alam, Deputy External Relations of the NDP there from Cairo, and from San Francisco, Ralph Shonman, author of The Hidden History of Zionism. Thank you, the viewer, for watching. Don't forget